Hi, my name is Henry. I'm the Senior Immigration Counsel at Manifest Law. And in this video, I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of the I-765 form, which is the application for employment authorization. Quick intro, there are immigration statuses where you are authorized to work incident to status. For example, if you have an H-1B visa, you are in H-1B status inside the United States, then you are authorized to work at the job that the employer got you the H-1B for. You don't need a separate additional employment authorization document. Also, if you are a lawful permanent resident, then your green card is evidence that you are authorized to work. You don't need a separate employment authorization document. There are some statuses, though, where you might not be authorized to work incident to status, which means that you have to proactively apply uh, if you meet the eligibility requirements. For example, if you are an F1 student, you can only work on campus, but if you are an F1 student and you want to participate in the CPT or OPT programs, then you have to apply for the EAD with the I-765, and that will authorize you to work for a different job off campus, for example, the OPT training opportunity with a private sector employer. I'm going to skip for a second, go down here. That is the most important part, in my opinion, of the form is really the eligibility category. There is a special code for different types of categories, and this form is filed for so many different kinds of categories. So the first thing you want to do is figure out, am I eligible and what is the category that I'm eligible under? If you look at the instructions document, so if you are on the USCIS website for the I-765 form, then there's online filing information here, and then under the forms and document downloads, there's the instruction form. So I really encourage everybody to look at the instructions first, because it does have some like kind of confusing and not very detailed information, but there is some useful details in the instructions here. So the one thing you find here is all of these different categories of who can apply, and then you will see here mentioned what are the kinds of evidence that they will ask for. So, for example, for the pre-completion or post-completion OPT, let's say it says like when do you have to file. There's specific deadlines when you're filing for the OPT. That's super important. And then you have to. It mentions like what kind of evidence you might need. So, for example, the I-20, right? So check these categories, and then you will know the code here. So let's say we are doing. So notice, for example, that there is a regular OPT is C3B, and then, for example, the STEM extension is C3C. And that brings us to the next thing that I wanted to talk about is when you start filling this out, the very first thing USCIS asks for is what is the reason for you for applying. Is this the first time? Is this a replacement, or is this a renewal? And the instructions actually tell you that the initial EAD is an EAD issued to somebody for the first time under a specific category. So a lot of times people ask me, am I not, shouldn't I select renewal when I'm applying for the STEM OPT extension, because I'm just extending my OPT? But notice what I just showed you, right? The code was different. So you only select renewal if the code is exactly the same as your previous EAD. So if you, for example, previously applied for an EAD as on an OPT, and then later you marry a US citizen, you're filing for adjustment of status, and then you are applying for an EAD based on a pending green card application or pending I-485, then you are going to still select initial permission, because it's the initial time that you are applying for employment authorization under that specific category code, right? So it's only a renewal if the code is exactly the same here as it was for the previous EID you had. If the code is different, it's an initial. Second, they're asking for basic information about you, your full legal name, and other names used. Under other names, I like to list even nicknames and aliases. So if you have 4 middle names, but everybody just calls you Jane, then just put here Jane as your nickname. Or if you have 3 middle names, but everybody just refers to you by your first name and last name, then you should put your full legal name in the first section, and then under other names used, you should use your first name and last name without including the middle names, because that's how your LinkedIn is, for example, and that's how you go by among friends or colleagues at work, things like that. Then you have your US mailing address, and they ask if that's the same as your physical. If not, then they ask you to write your physical address here. Then they ask for your A number. Many of you might not have an A number, but if you've previously had an EAD card, you have an A number. It's on your EAD card listed as your USCIS number. So it's the same thing as a USCIS number. A stands for alien, and it's basically a number that USCIS assigns to you so that they would have some way to record your file information without only using your social security number or date of birth. USCIS online account number. If you do have a USCIS online account, then you put it here. Then when you file the form, even on paper, it should populate and pop up showing the status on your My USCIS later. So they will connect your case to the correct account. Here they're asking for if you've previously filed and if you want and if you have a social security number. If you have a social security number, then you don't need for them to issue you a new one, and you don't have to authorize them to share information with the Social Security Administration. Then it's asking for father's, mother's name, your country of citizenship, place of birth, and then information about when did you last come into the United States, what was your status, where did you arrive, that's the port of entry where you entered, or usually the first airport that you arrived in. And then if you have the CVIS number, then put that in here as well. Like I already showed you, here is the place where you have to put the eligibility category. What is the category under which you are eligible for authorization to work? And then there's a lot of different stuff here that's only category specific. So for example, for STEM OPT, they need your employer's E-Verify information, because only E-Verify employers are eligible for STEM OPT extension workers. There's C8, which I believe is the asylee or asylum applicant, one of those. I forgot off the top of my head. And then other categories here that for most people doesn't apply, so you just skip right through it. Here you put your contact details, and then here's where you will be signing. Read the declaration here. It's asking for you to basically swear under penalty of perjury that everything you've submitted is accurate and true information. And then you're going to sign and date here. If you are applying on paper, then remember that USCIS does not accept electronic signatures. So you need to print, sign by hand with a pen. Do not use an iPad, touchscreen, or auto pen to sign this before printing it out. In most cases, you're not using an interpreter, so this one will be blank here. But if you are using an interpreter, then the interpreter should be putting their information and signature. And then if you are using an attorney to help you in this, then they would be filling this out as the preparer and signing here. And also, if there's an attorney involved, then they would be ticking this box and potentially putting their account number here. The G28 is the form that attorneys need to have signed by you to show USCIS that they are representing you. So that's what this here means. And that's about it. If you have any other questions about the I-765 or are not sure if you're eligible under any of the categories, please visit manifestlaw.com and click on Request a Consultation on our website. And we are happy to connect you to our intake team quickly and to get you scheduled for a consultation with a licensed immigration attorney as soon as possible. Thank you very much.